The last thing you want to do is piss off an entire country. But that's exactly what happened to one man who tried to buy North Korea's most luxurious hotel. He made an offer they couldn't refuse, but something strange happened when he arrived. All of the locals had vanished. No one was left behind except for dust, cobwebs, and creepy statues. We don't know much about this abandoned city, but we do know one thing. It holds a very dark secret that could change everything. So let's take a look at the haunting truth behind North Korea's ghost hotels. Welcome back, everyone. Here you're about to see the most terrifying abandoned place in the world. But before we get started, be sure to hit that like button for more amazing videos. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an upload. You definitely don't want to miss this one. This is a place where foreigners are not allowed, which makes sense considering how tense things have been between North Korea and the rest of the world lately. This country has been known to do some pretty shady things. And since they like to keep to themselves, they've built up quite the reputation over the years. Although their leader, Kim Jong-un, seems to enjoy flaunting his wealth every now and then by test-driving expensive sports cars and riding white horses, most of their population lives in poverty. If you were one of the lucky ones, you could live in Pyongyang, their lavish capital. And if you lived there, you would have the opportunity to stay at one of their many ghost hotels. What? That sounds like a really good time? Well, not really. These hotels are completely empty. They have no staff, no guests, and haven't had any in decades. But why? Well, to find out, we'll have to go back in time all the way to the Korean War. When war breaks out between two countries, it always affects innocent civilians. But this war took it to a whole new level. Entire cities were leveled, and millions of people lost their lives. When the war finally ended in 1953, both Koreas were separated and no one was allowed to cross the border unless they were part of the military. That meant no tourists, no international trade, and no diplomatic relations. This led to North Korea becoming one of the most isolated countries in the world. But why wouldn't they just open up again once the war was over? Well, the answer is simple. They blame each other for starting the war in the first place. Yes, even after 70 years, tensions are still high between these two countries. And if anything, they hate each other even more than before. Over the years, North Korea has conducted several nuclear tests and launched missiles into neighboring countries, causing many of them to impose sanctions against them. This has led to many business owners avoiding North Korea at all costs, especially since they can't guarantee the safety of their clients. But one man wasn't deterred by this. He wanted to visit North Korea and buy one of their hotels. Now, you may be asking yourself, why would anyone want to buy a hotel that literally nobody ever visits? And the answer is simple. He got it for cheap. In 2015, a Canadian businessman named Chris Hill made an offer for Pyongyang's most luxurious hotel, the Yanggakdo International Hotel. It was originally built in the 1980s and was supposed to be a symbol of wealth and prosperity for the country. But due to lack of maintenance, it fell into disrepair. Chris planned to renovate the building and turn it into a casino resort, which would have been the first of its kind in North Korea. And to say that this man went all out would be an understatement. He spent over $30 million on the project, including buying luxury cars for the staff and hiring bodyguards to protect him while he was there. But something strange happened when he arrived. The entire city was deserted. We don't know exactly what happened, but it's rumored that the government simply abandoned the city overnight, leaving everyone to fend for themselves. Some say that they were forced to move to another part of the country, while others say they simply disappeared without a trace. Whatever the case may be, no one knows what happened to them. As soon as Chris realized that no one was around, he left the safety of his hotel and decided to explore the city. He wanted to see what life was like for the average North Korean citizen and learn more about their culture. But what he found was not what he expected at all. The streets were dirty and littered with trash. There were stray dogs everywhere, and most of the buildings were in a state of disrepair. It was a far cry from the lavish lifestyle that he was used to. But he pressed on and eventually came across an abandoned amusement park. It was filled with old and rusty equipment that hadn't been used in years. There were roller coasters, carousels, and even a Ferris wheel, but everything was covered in dirt and dust. He also visited one of their famous restaurants which served traditional Korean food, but he was the only customer there. The staff seemed relieved to have someone to serve for a change, but they were hesitant to speak to him. After all, foreigners are not allowed in North Korea, and they didn't know what would happen if they were caught talking to one. Despite this, Chris managed to have a conversation with a waiter who told him about life in the country. According to the waiter, people were not allowed to own cars or have their own businesses, and if they wanted to leave the country, they needed special permission from the government, which was almost impossible to get. Chris was shocked by this, but he knew that he couldn't stay there any longer. He had to get out before someone noticed him. He paid his bill and left the restaurant. But as he was walking away, he saw something that made him stop in his tracks. A group of children were playing near an old statue of foreign journalists. They were laughing and playing, completely oblivious to the danger that they were in. If they were caught playing near a foreign journalist, they could be in serious trouble. Chris knew he had to do something, so he approached the children and asked them to come with him. He took them to a nearby market and bought them food and toys. Then he gave each of them a piece of candy and told them to run away as fast as they could. He didn't know where they would go or what would happen to them, but he knew that they couldn't stay there. As the children ran away, Chris turned and walked away. He had seen enough. He had to get out of there before someone noticed him. But as he was leaving, he heard a voice behind him. "You shouldn't be here." He turned around and saw a group of soldiers approaching him. They had guns in their hands, and they were pointing them at him. Chris knew that he was in trouble, but he didn't know what to do. He had to get out of there, but he couldn't outrun those soldiers. That's when he had an idea. He pulled out the camera and started taking pictures of the soldiers. They froze, and one of them shouted, "Stop taking pictures." Chris pretended to listen, but he was actually stalling for time. He knew that if he could just get out of there, he would be fine. The soldiers started to approach him, but that gave Chris enough time to run away. He sprinted down the street and hid in an alleyway. He could hear the soldiers shouting and banging on the walls, but he didn't come out. He stayed there until nightfall, and then he made his way to the hotel. Once he was inside, he locked the door and called security. He explained what had happened, and they agreed to help him. They drove him to the border, where he crossed into China and then South Korea. From there, he flew back to Canada, and that's when things got weird. Chris started receiving threats from unknown people who claimed to be from the North Korean government. They told him that he had violated their laws and that he would be punished for it. But Chris didn't take them seriously until one day when he was walking down the street and saw a group of men following him. He didn't know what to do, but he eventually shrugged it off. After all, it was probably just a coincidence. But the next day, the same thing happened again. This time they were closer, and he could see that they were taking pictures of him. That's when he realized that he was in danger. He called the police and told them about the situation. They took him seriously this time and put him in protective custody. It turned out that the North Korean government was not happy with Chris for taking pictures of their soldiers, and they had sent agents to punish him. But it wasn't personal. It was just business. The government didn't want anyone else to know that they had spies in Canada, so they had to get rid of Chris. But thankfully, the police were able to stop them, and nothing happened to him. However, this made Chris realize that he never wanted to go back to North Korea. He had seen enough, and he didn't want to risk his life again. So that's why we don't know what really happened to the people who lived there. Maybe they were forced to move, or maybe they were arrested for spying. But one thing is for sure, they're not coming back anytime soon. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.